Thank you everyone attending the Governance Committee on Wednesday the 24th of November 2021. My name is Deborah Platt and I'm the Chair of the Committee and Councillor Messina Khan is the Vice Chair. Please note this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. When you want to speak, please raise your hand. When I invite you to speak, please turn your microphone on. Please turn your microphone off. If not, a new date and time will be organised. Please everyone ensure their phones are on silent and we're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarms do sound, please make your way out. Okay, so apologies, I've got apologies from Councillor Sarah Rainsworth and Councillor Mark Clifford coming in for her, and Gordon France might be remote, is he?
He's not yet, Chair, but Councillor Berry's also joined the meetings.
Right. Okay, item 1, minutes of the meeting for Wednesday the 28th of July of Governance Committee. Is there any issues on these minutes from anyone? Can I take it that the minutes are approved? And are we all in favour? I think, do we have voting on the minutes as well? The minutes. Isn't it? Brilliant, they're accepted, thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest.
Chair, so you have an item on the agenda about the appointment of external auditors. So entirely up to the committee. I'm happy to leave at that point and rejoin, but I'll take direct, and Michael as well, take direction from the committee.
Okay. Did you get that, Matthew, then? For them? Yeah. No more? No.
For external audit to absent themselves, they're not decision makers. So.
Updated 1920 audit findings report. Michael Green is here to present this report for us.
Thank you, Chair. You recall back to the July meeting, we brought this report on the audit financial statements and our findings at that point. Just to reiterate, that that audit is complete, and there have been no substance within the report that relate to the financial statements element, and we continue to provide this report we brought back here today because we've now completed our work on the conclusion and the council has in place in that regard. The intent is on the report from page 25 onwards. Just a bit of context. I go through the detail. This work has been completed under pre-audit practice. Remains a binary judgment, qualified, unqualified, and considers 3 core criteria: informed decision making, sustainable resource deployment, and working with partners and other third parties. As part of our risk assessment, dating back here, we identified 2 significant risks in that regard. The first around financial sustainability, and the second relating to the purchase of house. In terms of satisfied that the council has appropriate arrangements in that regard. In substantive detail.
Could be able to. It seems some of the microphones are playing. I'll swap him over.
Okay. So, financial sustainability, to report, and as I say, we're satisfied with the arrangements the council has in place in that regard. I do just want to focus a little on the work that we did around Logistics House, which was also a key part of the financial statements or audit. Just before I go into the detail, I do just want to highlight the context that we recognise that the purchase of the logistics was carried out at a timetable, and I feel it's important to note that the findings that we raise in here aren't in any way saying that the purchase was wrong or that there are any concerns with that investment that the council has made. The findings that we have reported in the associated recommendations are all centred around the arrangement to support the decision process, particularly ensuring that members have sight of all relevant information in addition to management commentaries and summaries, helps informed decision making by the council. Management recommendations and the cases presented, and that's very core to the VFM criteria mentioned. So in terms of the detailed finding of 5 key areas that led to recommendations within the report, let's go through those. So firstly, this was a very material and key decision of the council. And on that basis, the decision to purchase Logistics House has been supported by robust and full business case that follows good practice models. That business case should be underpinned by robust risk management and noting of risks and proposed actions in line with the council's risk management policy. In our view, that hadn't fully been achieved and therefore has led to a recommendation in that area. The business case itself, in our view, should have been supported by robust due diligence that not only looking back at historical information, should have also taken into account forward-looking information. So whilst the council did embark on some due diligence, we just thought that could have been enhanced and again led to a recommendation in that area. The council did show good practice in having informal meetings and engaging with members as part of the decision-making process. We do think that could have been enhanced further by sort of keeping records and minuting those meetings, particularly noting any questions and challenges that were arising from those that could be published for all members in advance of any formal decision-making process to help inform the decision further. Another finding that we identified was that in our view, members should always have the full information to support any decision that's been made, particularly one of this nature. And that also includes any sensitive data that is of relevance. In this case, Gerald Eve, the council's advisor, provided a purchase report. When that was taken to the council, there were certain elements of that that were redacted. That was at the request of Gerald Eve, although there was no formal agreement or non-disclosure sort of that the council had signed up to on that. But in our view, given certainly that decision was made in a closed session of the council, that members should have had access to that information, again, to promote transparency and be able to have the full information, in addition to the summaries and recommendations of management. And finally, we identified a point around legal advice. At the council meeting where the decision was made, the papers included a recommendation that the council set up a wholly owned subsidiary which would hold the property on the council's behalf. In our view, there were other options available that members should have been made aware of to be able to discuss. Obviously, the officers were free to recommend the preferred course of action on that, but again, we just feel that the options should have been there to be explored. And also, when making key decisions such as this, the possibility of obtaining independent third-party legal advice is always advisable. So whilst we're not necessarily saying it should have happened, again, it's a recommendation for improvement going forward. So in summary, they were the key findings. As you can see, a lot of that is about ensuring members always have the full information to hand to make their decisions. And on that basis, we're proposing to issue a qualified, except for opinion, on the value for money conclusion for this year. Again, just want to go back to the introduction to say that that is because we're under the old code, where it is very much that binary qualified, unqualified position, so that any issues or findings that we do raise, that's how we are required to sort of action and report on that. Under the new code, for instance, which is more a rounded commentary on arrangements and recommendations, there is no sort of qualified opinion which would arise. So it's very much terminology and language, and also to reassure members that this qualification coming from an auditor always sounds like an incredibly serious or harsh view. It is actually the sort of the least example of us using our powers in this instance. If there was a real concern, we'd be talking about an adverse opinion, which is much more serious, or potentially statutory recommendations. So just want to give a bit of context for members to add to your assurance, but happy to take any comments or questions on that.
Thank you, Michael. Members, have you got any questions or queries that you want to ask of Michael from this report? I'll open it up before I have mine. Alan?
Sorry. Yeah. Could I just check whether, regarding the logistics house purchase, which is quite a few pages on the document, is it able to ascertain whether things have been put into place to actually prevent this happening again, or?
Of course, I mean, the issues that we've identified, we've discussed those with management, and obviously we've made a number of recommendations. I'm pleased to report that management have responded to those recommendations, and they are sort of on pages 36 and 37. So we're confident, or have no reason to believe that management would take these points forward and ensure the suitable arrangements are in place.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we've had quite lengthy conversations with Michael about this, and look, it's never nice to be told you've not done anything perfectly, but we are a learning organisation, and if there are areas for improvement, then we accept that. I think it's fair to say we don't entirely agree with the conclusions that are drawn as a result of some of the findings that have been made. I think it's fair to be fair, I think it's been put over very fairly, using that word again, by Michael, that the consequences could potentially have been serious, I guess, but in this instance weren't. And I think the decision was robust and was informed, but I agree that there were things that if we'd had more time and do over, we might have done better.
Thanks, Chris. Is there any other comments? Oh, Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's more a comment because I do believe Chris, just as he finished off there, mentioned if there was more time. I think I believe it was to do with the purchase of this. Wasn't a whole lot of time because these things, when they come up, if you don't jump on them, they're gone. Is that correct? Thank you.
Yeah, if I can respond, yeah, to be fair, Michael did make that point at the start of his presentation about it. This did have time constraints, but that's not an excuse. You know, if there's things we can do better. There wasn't a codified business plan. There wasn't a single document that you can point at as a business plan, but I would argue that all the information that would have gone into a business plan was available, other than the information that we feel was redacted at the request of the information that was redacted at the request of Gerald Eve because of its commercial sensitivity. But that's not to say that if we'd have had more time or done it over, we wouldn't have done a single business plan.
No more questions? I just have one question. Is it within the ability of your company to accept queries from councillors? If we'd have known in advance about, well, we'd not have known in advance because it's a time-sensitive item, but are you open to questions for us to say, what more can we ask for? What more should we ask for from the officers?
Yeah, I think certainly. I mean, that's something that you know, we could look at doing a training session for members or the governance committee. You know, we're always available to take questions from members, to raise any issues or to look for any advice or guidance. So yeah, that's certainly something we could you know, help you with potentially.
Oh, that's good to know, Michael, that you're available for all members, and obviously we won't all rush to ask you loads of questions every day, but it's just if something like this comes up again, not that it will because it's unique in its own right, but something significant, large and time sensitive that we don't have the time to spend gathering tons and tons of information. We have to have it all gathered for a particular date, but that's great. Thanks very much. Any more questions? No. So at the end of the discussion, I wonder if we could note that report, if that's all right with everybody. Yeah, brilliant. Well, we're jumping on to what is described as item 11 in your papers, so we're jumping right to the end, but it fits in here. Okay, so it's the Chorley Borough Council Audit Progress Report and Sector Update, pages 107 to 126, and we've got Georgia Jones from the Auditors here to help us with that one. Georgia?
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is just our usual progress update report that we bring to members, just to give you an update on this was the 2021 financial statements audit. So if I just take you to agenda page 110, first of all, my apologies, it just says July at the top of the page and it should be November. So this update is for November and not July, so apologies for that.
You'll be improving your quality issues.
Noted, thank you. So yes, so just to say that the 2021 financial statements audit has commenced. It is progressing well at this point. We are working closely with officers and the finance team to ensure that we get the information to continue to progress that on a timely basis. And we anticipate bringing our audit findings report to the Governance Committee in January. So Michael's given you the update in terms of 1920 value for money. So our 2021 value for money work is starting and continuing at the moment. So the timescale for that is 3 months after the opinion is given, but we have started that work and we will pick up the recommendations that was made from the 1920 audit that Michael's just been through, just to follow those up as well, to give further assurance to members around those kind of processes and responses from management. As you'll recall from previous meetings, it is much wider scope in terms of value for money this year, so we will have a more in-depth look at arrangements across the council and give you a fuller report in terms of the auditor's annual report. We'll bring that back to yourselves, which will set out all of our findings and if we do have any recommendations. Just on the following page, just sets out other areas that we report to you on, so certification of claims. So we will be commencing our work on the housing benefit claim in the next month or so, the next few weeks, with a view to reporting by the end of January for that claim. We do continue to have meetings with the senior management team to get those updates in terms of the council's progress and any emerging issues. And then just really the part on audit fees is just kind of a repeat from previous progress reports. And you'll recall that we brought our audit fees for 2021 in the audit plan at the last meeting. The next page, so agenda page 112, just sets out our deliverables and the timetables around that, which just really covers what I've already talked about. And then we've got our usual sector update, which has various reports which might be of interest to members. So I'm happy to take any questions around that update report.
Thanks, Georgia. Have members got any questions for Georgia or the report even? Thank you for that. So we're now at the end of that discussion, and please can we note that report? Thank you. So jumping back into the order, I've got item 4, which is appointment of external auditors, pages 49 to 52, and we've got Dawn here. Where have you gone? There you go, Dawn. This report, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to set out the options available to the Council for the appointment of an external auditor for the period from 23 onwards. The Council has 3 options available to them, and they are set out on the second page of the report, which is my agenda page 10, but I'm not sure if my numbering is incorrect. As I said, there are 3 options. We are recommending that the Council opts into option 3, which is the PSAA sector-led national scheme. The reasons for this are set out in paragraph 9. Obviously, we would piggyback on the back of their experience of working within the context of the regulations. They would manage the contracts and the fee setting again. It is a limited marketplace, and so if we decided to take our own approach, it would be very resource intensive, and the chances are we would end up with the same outcome anyway. That, again, as you can see from the report, it is the recommendations of the statutory finance officers, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dawn. Does anybody have any questions on that report? No? Okay, thank you. So we're at the end of that debate, and the committee is asked to recommend to the Council to opt into the public sector audit appointments national scheme for the appointment of the external auditor. So can I have a proposal for that? And Hasina seconded. And we do need to make a vote on that, so if you could just press your buttons. Okay, that vote's carried. And we'll jump on to item 5, which is the internal audit or interim report as at the 29th of October 21, pages 53 to 68. It's Dawn again.
Again, thank you, Chair. Again, this is our internal audit interim report, and it covers the work that we've carried out in between April and October of 21. The work that we have finalised is set out on page 2 of the report, in the table set out, and we've provided the name of the review that has been completed, the assurance rating that we've been awarded, and any key controls that we've identified or any comments that we've made about the work that we've completed. As you can see, the majority of the work that we've done, we've been able to award either a substantial or adequate assurance rating. There is one review which has received a limited assurance, and a full copy of the report has been emailed to the Governance Committee members. From that email, you can clearly see, from the report, you can clearly see the issues that have been identified for the reasons why it's been limited. However, more importantly, what you can see is the action plan contained within that report, which sets out the actions to improve the control environment within that particular area. One particular thing to note about that is the timescale of the deliverable, of the actions, for the actions to be delivered by. With the exception of one, all the actions are due to be delivered by the end of February. So it's within a really short timescale that those improvements will be made. If I can move on to our own performance, at Appendix, which one is it? Appendix B, I've set out our own performance indicators. This shows that we are slightly behind on the delivery of the audit plan. However, for the reasons explained in the report, the recruitment exercise took slightly longer than we anticipated. Again, the other area that we're slightly behind on is the implementation of management actions. Again, that is partly due to the fact that over the past few years there hasn't been a systematic approach to following up these actions, but that's now been resolved, and directors are getting detailed reports every month. And even now, I mean, this was up to the end of Q2, but the picture as at the end of October is improving. I've also added in some details about some developments within our service, but again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dawn. Do any members have any questions for Dawn or on this report? Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Chair. It's whilst I realise I'm a substitute on this committee, I wasn't sent the email that has been discussed. So if I could just have some more details, please, on what was involved with the limited findings for Primrose Gardens, please. Thank you.
We'll get that on your email, but I've got a paper one here if you want to skim through while Dawn's here this afternoon, just straight after the meeting. A paper one just for a quick glance, but you can get that on the email, and I'm sure Dawn will answer any questions you've got after the meeting. Oh, right. Do you want, sorry, just ask for a summary of it. Have you got it there? Do you need a paper copy? Yeah, we've got it.
Yeah, to sum up, it was actually Primrose Gardens is quite well run, to be honest, from a resident point of view. The issues that were identified that caused it to be limited is more from a repairs and maintenance point of view, and they're the issues that we need to address. I apologise if I've missed you off the email, and that's something I'll rectify after the meeting. Like I say, it was about a lot of it was about the repairs and maintenance side. There were a couple of recommendations in relation to improving not improving the policies, but making sure that policies are reviewed in a timely manner, so that there's an annual review carried out for those. And I think one of the other areas was about, I'll have to refresh myself on this one, I apologise. Largely, it was about making sure that the fire risk assessments and actions derived from those are implemented as soon as they can.
Yeah, there are nine points, but only one of them is really so urgent. It's got to be done in November. All the other ones are January, February, and a lot of them are policies. But the fire risk report obviously is urgent, and that's the one that just has to be done right now. But if you ever read through this, if you've got any other questions, I'm sure Donna will answer them for you. Okay, so that's the end of that one. And any questions? There's no more questions. No, and we'll note that report if that's okay. So, item 6, Treasury Management Activity Mid-Year Review 2021-22, pages 69 to 84, and we've got Tony to present this report for us.
Thank you, Chair. Well, this is the regular half-yearly report that the committee is used to receiving each year itself, and an important plank in the overall Treasury management framework. There's very little of any great note to report from the first half of the year. The cash balances to September, they did average very little short of £10 million. That's in paragraph 7, table 1. That is higher than it would usually be for Chorley. The typical level is around about £5 to £6 million. And it being as high as almost 10 million, that's a reflection of continuing circumstances around the pandemics and the cash flows that have been associated with that. Just looking at the table 1, a very important figure, the average earnings for the half year was an absolutely majestic 0.06%. And I don't know, it seems every year I'm sort of a little bit depressed about quite how low it is, and it keeps getting lower. But as in the previous years, it's against the background of the circumstances as they have been, it's actually a creditable result. If we refer on to paragraph 14, you'll see there that, well, things have been sufficiently mad this last while that Link have abandoned their usual recommended target earnings rate and have settled on a flat standard of 0.1%. So again, with the council's portfolio actually being relatively small, oh sorry, is that in the way? Okay, it's and that 0.1% is based on an assumption of term deposits, a lot of term deposits averaging up to 3 months. Now, in the nature of the council's cash flow, that's simply not how it is. So, in that context, 0.06, yes, actually, we've done rather well. Now, the other day, I think I referred to interest rates as having been haywire this last while. However, it seems now to have been going on for so long that it's maybe started to feel like a new normal. But there are some signs now that we're heading back towards something more recognisable as normal market movements, because really the news, not immediately from the first half of the year, but just over these last weeks, is expectations have now changed on when the bank rate is going to rise from its current level of 0.1%, where that was not expected to happen actually for 2 to 3 years. The expectation is that it may happen before Christmas. And if it doesn't, it may not be long after. And then for that to continue on a steady rise to over 3 years to 1.25%. So having perhaps made that sound slightly dramatic, that's, you know, it's an extended period to get to that level. And no, it hadn't been expected, but yes, you know, you'll see in paragraph 14 and paragraph 20 and Appendix C, there is detail of the latest forecasts that we have from our Treasury management advisors. Now, there was no new external long-term borrowing in the first half of the year. That is likely to change in the second half of the year, but none in the first half. And that really, Chair, is highlights of the report.
Thank you, Tony. We don't hold the interest rates as being your fault, so don't worry about it. Has anybody got any questions on Tony's report or the contents of? No? Okay, so we're at the end of that discussion and we are asked to note that paper. Okay, thank you. So item 7 is the Governance Committee Guidance and Effectiveness Review on pages 85 to 104. And Dawn's going to present this for us. Dawn?
Yeah, again, thank you. So back in 2018, CITFA issued guidance specifically for audit committees, practical guidance for local authorities. And contained within this guidance, there is a self-assessment that committees can benchmark themselves against. So this self-assessment has been carried out in conjunction with the chair and is included at Appendix A. So it's quite clear from that self-assessment that the committee is largely operating in line and is meeting best practice. However, there are 5 areas where we've identified where we could improve the arrangements. So they are detailed under paragraph 10. So I'll move on to terms of reference in a second. But the other one is the guidance recommends that the self-assessment is carried out annually, and that's something that we will do going forward. So I'll do that in conjunction with the chair on an annual basis. The third recommendation is about an independent person. So whilst I understand that this committee already has an independent person, this would be purely for somebody with experience on maybe an audit background or financial background as well. This was included within Sir Tony Redmond's review. There was also that recommendation included in there. And I know that CITFA are going to issue further guidance about this in the coming months. Again, in terms of feedback, what we will do, we will develop a short survey in conjunction with the chair, and this will be issued to key stakeholders so that we can assess the value that the committee is bringing to the council as a whole. The other area is training, and again, that's something that we've been working on quite closely over the past few months, and the training needs of the committee will be kept under review and addressed as and when we need to. If I can just go back to the terms of reference. So the guidance contains a model terms of reference. And again, what we've done is we've set out Appendix B, the detail of the model terms of reference. And we've also put in details of how the committee is operating in line with them. So we can clearly see, as the report says, that we are already meeting those requirements. So Appendix C, I've just set out, is a draft terms of reference. So if it was to be adopted, this is how it would look. And the standards aspects would remain unchanged. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the report. But I think the recommendation is that we take it forward and to full council to change the constitution.
Thanks, Dawn. Does anybody have any questions on this this work? I think probably the only one was, I know it was issued in 2018. When is there a sort of a guidance when we should have started doing this?
Really, we should have been doing it from 2018, yeah.
Okay. But we've done it now, so that's done it now. Excellent. So if nobody's got any questions, we really need to note this report. And it considers the updated terms of reference prior to the submission at full council for approval. Sorry? Yep.
I'd like to make a couple of comments about the standards bit of the terms of reference, if that would be right. Dawn has said the standards thing hasn't changed, but it struck me that there were maybe a couple of things that were missing from that. Firstly, there's nothing there about the committee's role in selecting and recommending independent persons to the point of standards. So that's a role the committee definitely has. And elsewhere in the statement of purpose, it talks about annual reports on this, annual reports on that. But we do actually do an annual report on standards complaints, so perhaps that should be an item in there as well. And finally, in various places it talks about reviewing SITFA thises and SOLAS that. Perhaps with regards to standards, there's need to be some sort of reference to external reports like the Committee on Standards in Public Life and the work they do in terms of standards. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Peter. Dawn, is that something that you would take away and consider changing, including or updating?
Yes, what we can do is we can add in those additional sections into the standards section. So yeah, that'll be fine.
Is the committee okay with those changes?
Sorry, Chair. Councillor Bray would like to speak on Teams.
Oh, sorry. Julia?
Oh, thanks very much, Chair. Can you hear me okay? I've got a bit of
Yes,
noise.
yes, we can. Thank you.
I'd just like to see more information really on risk contained in the terms of reference, particularly when we're a change in authority and we're getting involved in, quite appropriately in a lot more work, particularly with vulnerable groups, that there's a risk to reputation about delivery of things we're being asked to do above and beyond our original remit as a district council, particularly, sort of actions we've had to take, particularly during COVID and lockdown. And I'd like to see something around safeguarding included. And I'm just really, I wouldn't want to go on it in great length today, but I just want to see if there is an opportunity to add to, or have a wider discussion at some other appropriate time, perhaps in another committee meeting. That's appropriate, I don't know, to discuss risk. I just don't think that it's adequate in the terms of reference that we've got there because of the changing nature of what the district council now delivers, and we've got other opportunities for the council around collaborating and working with a greater number of partners and councils that perhaps needs to be updated within the terms of reference as well, as far as risk is concerned. Thanks.
Thanks, Julie. Chris, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think certainly we can review the terms of reference in relation to risk. Risk is certainly something that's owned by this committee on behalf of the council. So if there's a feeling that it needs beefing up a bit, we'll have a look at that. I'll speak to Councillor Berry separately about the safeguarding point, which I'm not clear how we can incorporate that into the terms of reference here. Obviously, we have safeguarding policies which Governance Committee are seized on, in relation to audits of them, but I'm not clear as to what Councillor Berry would like to see in the terms of reference for this committee, but I can speak to her separately.
Oh, yeah. Gary?
Thank you, Chair. Just on the safeguarding front, we are required to do a self-assessment annually, Section 11 report, the details of which, Councillor Berry, are consolidated by our county colleagues. So it's really a kind of county council function rather than district council. We contribute to it, admittedly, but that assessment is done at a county level. That's not to say that this committee couldn't review. It's all chose to the Section 11 report. And Dawn's going to tell me that actually she's already on with it. But
Safeguarding is included in the audit plan for this year and will be carried out in Q4.
Okay, with all those additions and changes and reviews, is the committee okay for Dawn and Chris and others to tweak the report just before it goes to full council? Because we're just noting it at the moment. And as I say, it was... right, so we're recommending that it goes to full council, really, for its approval. Yeah. what are we actually deciding on? Because it doesn't say decide, it says consider.
I've got it down as a vote. Up to you if you want to note it or
Right.
vote whether to take it forwards.
Right, so
Proposal
we're
amended.
noting the report, the terms of reference, and that we want to pass it to full council, and that we've considered the comments on the self-assessment of good practice and subsequent actions. So we just need to take a vote on that one then. Oh, we're to propose it. Yeah?
Well, given what's just been said, are we able to actually do that? Because you are effectively going to have to add to the document. So can we recommend for submission to full council for approval a document that's going to have additions?
Sorry, what we can do is, if it would make it easier, is I'll make the additions and then I'll bring a short report back to the meeting in January, if that would suffice.
Yeah, I mean, if that's acceptable to committee, what I was going to say is, of course, you are all members of council, and you could recommend the proposals as per the discussions we've had, which includes reviewing the risk element.
It's just that gap though, if something goes in that doesn't come out the same as what we thought it was spoken about.
Yeah.
But if it gets circulated, I'm sure we can have the chance to read through, and if the next meeting's only in January, we're not delaying things too much.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So if I can have a proposal for all of that. Pardon? Yeah, well, I'll propose that then. Can we have a second of that? Thanks, Cecilia. And a vote, please, on your screens. So just to confirm, that's coming back to us in January, and then it will go to full council with the tweaks. Yeah? Okay, so item 8, are you prepared for this long one? It's the RIPA application update by Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, another verbal update just to confirm we haven't made any RIPA applications in the last quarter.
Speedily on. We can note that report. Thank you very much. There's nothing to report. Item 9 is the work programme, so hopefully you've had a skim through that, and if there's any comments or questions from anyone, no, and we can. Sorry, did someone shout up?
Sorry, just to note, it says there on 19th of January to take an update on the Chorley Council capital strategy. I'm more than happy to do that. It'd be more interesting than Chris's GDP.
Sorry, James, you just have to say that a little bit slower.
Sorry, I do speak fast. So on the 19th of January, it's proposed to take an update on the Chorley Council capital strategy to governance. I don't mind doing that, but it'd be more interesting than Chris's GDPR update. But it actually went to council last week, the update, and actually a month later, the new capital strategy will be taken to full council as part of the budget approval process. So I would recommend we take that off really for governances, unless you really want to have an update.
No, if you recommend for it to come off, it will probably arrive back on at another point when it's later on.
So the update for the capital strategy goes to council, but if governments do wish to see something throughout the year, I'm happy to accommodate that.
Okay, is it normally on our work programme?
No. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, James, would it not make sense for the committee to endorse the strategy prior to the budget meeting? Is that within the terms of reference? Chris? Yeah, would you?
If I suggest just leaving it on for now, Chair, if it is the case it's outside the terms of reference, I can confirm it to the committee and we can remove it if committee agree, but it sounds like it might be worth bringing it back even if it's for endorsement.
Okay, if it's on the work programme, at least it won't get forgotten. At least you can look on the work programme. If it doesn't need to go on, then it doesn't need to go on. So if we all note that report, yep, and Item 10, any urgent business? I haven't received any urgent business, so I will declare the meeting closed. And thank you for attending, everyone, even virtually.